What's up, everybody? This is Sean, and this is Comics Review. It's been a while since I've been on the podcast with this particular podcast because I've been focusing a lot on our wrestling podcast with my son, Inside the Square, the wrestling podcast. It's available everywhere you listen to podcasts. It's our bread and butter, and it's what we're very, very passionate about. But I'm also very passionate about comic books, and I felt remiss to leave a project hanging. So it's been about a year, but I wanted to get right back on that horse and try this again. Once again, this is Sean Graham. I've been collecting comic books since I was 8 years old. Got my first comic book from my granddad. It was in a Whitman 3-pack, and it was Transformers 1, 2, and 3. Missing issue 4. And it kind of started me on my journey. And to this day, 15, 20,000 comic books later, I still got the same passion. I still feel like a little kid when I open up a comic book and I read the panels and I look at the colors and I see the sequential art, and it just really it brings back a lot of nostalgia, and it feels really, really refreshing, especially if you've had a bad day or you're going through some things. It's some cheap. I wouldn't say cheap, but it's some good escapism because comic books are not cheap anymore. When I first started buying them, they were 65, 75 cents. Now, I just picked up a comic book the other day. I think it was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin, Part 2. And I think the book was like $9.99, which is crazy. Good book, but it was $9.99. Well, let's get into it. Talk about the old pull list. I pull a lot of Star Wars titles, especially the High Republic, Darth Vader. It was Dark Droids, and now that's ended. And Doc Afra, which is just ended too. Doc Afra, apparently coming back later on with a different writer. I think Alyssa Wong is not going to be writing it anymore. She is an incredible writer. Incredible writer. She's the reason I started picking up Star Wars. Because once, I had kind of missed the train when it first came back to Marvel. But once I picked up a couple issues of Doc Afra, I was like, this is actually pretty damn well done. She's different. She kind of introduced us to Santa Staros and a bunch of other characters to an expanded Star Wars universe. And it's really good to see, the franchise not be stagnant, especially with the comic book rights coming back to Marvel, as they used to be with Dark Horse before Disney purchased Marvel. But it's really, really good to look at these books and say, man, Star Wars come a long way since I first saw it back when I was a young kid. I read a lot of Spider-Man titles too. It's on my pull list. ASM, Miles Morales, Spider-Boy, and Spider-Woman too. And I'm currently in the Edge of the Spider-Verse again. Don't judge me, guys. Edge of the Spider-Verse produces a lot of brand new characters for the Spider-Verse. The last Edge of the Spider-Verse had the Weapon 8. He's a version of Peter Parker from a different Earth. He's more like an assassin for S.H.I.E.L.D. I forget what the organization was that he works for, but he's kind of like a Wolverine. He's in like the Weapon H program, or the Weapon X program. So it's interesting to see how they introduce all these new characters. In issue 3, they're supposed to introduce Star Spider. How, what, and when he's supposed to be taking place, who knows? Well, it's a lot of spec on those characters. I'm currently also interested in Something Is Killing the Children, their shared universe, because they have House of Slaughter. They have the main title, Something Is Killing the Children, and they produce one-shots too, like the Book of Slaughter. They have a lot of history behind the different houses and what the masks mean, and a lot of mythology and the lore around the whole universe. It's really well done. James Tynion takes a lot of time to develop these characters. Erica Slaughter, a bunch of even the one from House of Slaughter. I forget his name, but he had no. He has he was in for a very short time. He had no arms. They always called him Bait. But his story was really well done. Tragic and sad. And now it seems like they're focusing on Jace Boucher, House of Butcher, and his battle against the rest of the families. Really interesting stuff. If you're not a fan of something that's killing children, pick up a trade paperback. And if you don't like it, nothing ventured, nothing gained. You probably will like it because it's really well done. I picked it up, House of Slaughter, years ago. One of my LCS managers, I'll just call her Liz, she suggested it, and I bought I bought 4 out of the first 5 issues because they didn't have issue number 2, and I ended up really liking it. I was like, huh. So I went back to find number 2, and it was sold out. But from that point on, I put it on my pull list, and I have every issue from, I think, issue 10 to present. And I have every issue of the House of Slaughter, and I have all the one-shots and books, and even an Ashcan version, and a couple graded copies too. I'm really into them. They're really well done too. Great art. I can't pronounce his last name, Delarada. Forgive me if I pronounce it wrong, but really well done art. Good story. Just in good colors too, and they have a lot of different versions of the covers, a lot of variants. Into Batman. It's currently on my pull list. Well, at least 3 of them. Batman, Detective Comics, and World's Finest, which is sadly coming to an end. World's Finest is, typical Batman, Superman team up. But it's done by Mark Waid and Dan Mora. So it's so much better than anything DC ever puts out. Really linear storytelling. This last arc that just finished up was really well done with Magog and Gog, and it also reintroduced the Kingdom Come storyline with the Kingdom Come Superman, Kingdom Come Batman, and that version of Darkseid. It just it had me in suspense up until the very end of it. So now I'm curious about how, because it's coming to an end, how Waid is going to wrap it up. And also where Waid is going to go after this book, because he is a really fine storyteller. Really good storyteller. And Dan Mora, his art is amazing. I first saw Dan Mora's art in Power Rangers. And then also Once and Future. The guy's art is superb. I always wondered why he never had like a run on Spider-Man or something like that. I know he's worked with Marvel before, but his art is superb. It's like meant for superhero stuff. It just is really well done. Also picking up the Energon Universe stuff. When I say Energon Universe stuff, I mean like the Transformers and Void Rivals. And I've also picked up an issue of Duke, second print with Destro on the cover. Really well done books. It's reinvigorated a lot of interest for the Transformers. It also made me want to go buy some of the Transformer works published by IDW. For those who don't know, IDW had the license and the franchise for years, and they produced a lot of books, a lot of different stories. They had Transformers Armada. They had a bunch of different other books like Transformers King Grimlock, which I'm looking at right now on my read pile. And they really expanded their universe. But these the Energon universe, rather, doesn't really go by any of that. It's its own separate, complete, standalone story. And it's integrated because it has members of G.I. Joe in it. And supposedly it's going to introduce a bunch of other characters. I know the first issue of Void Rivals, where the Energon universe started, it had Skyfire in it. And it was just, I don't know, it was kind of like hard to like see it, because it's like, what the hell is he doing in here? I don't want to spoil it, but I mean, we're on issue 7 of Void Rivals. So these 2 aliens, they're in like an interplanetary war or something, and they crash land. It's almost like an enemy mine, rather, situation where they crash land on this asteroid, rock, whatever have you, and they have to work together. And while they're working together, trying to scrounge up parts for this spacecraft, they find a transformer. It was frozen, or disengaged rather, or disabled. So they managed to get him started back up, and he realizes, I've been gone for a long time. I need to get back to Cybertron or find the rest of the Autobots. And he leaves. And that's how, and you see him again show back up in Transformers, which is really cool to see too. I'm a lifelong Transformers fan. I've been watching Transformers ever since I was a little kid. And it's just something, it did something for me. So, from then on, it's like Transformers and Void Rivals will be on my pull list until they end. It's just really well done. A lot of surprises within the series itself. They're really focusing on trying to bring G.I. Joe into the fold, which is also really cool too. I've got a few other books on my pull list, but they're like a lot of onesie twosie things. And I also do impulse buys. I just mentioned Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin, Part 2. Really well done book. The price point is a little scary because it is $10. I'm not used to paying the price for a regular comic book has gone up dramatically. Now it used to be $3.99. Now a lot of them are $4.99. Some $6.99, and some of the variants and incentives can range $25, $50, $100, depending on what kind of cover you want. I always tend to stick with the A covers because they hold their value no matter what. A lot of the incentive covers go down. So if you're thinking about buying a bunch of ratios or a bunch of variants, buyer beware. That 1 out of 25 that you paid $25, $30 for, okay, it might be cover price in about 6 months. That's just how it goes. Market is a fickle mistress. Back issue Bandits. My LCS last week had a crazy ass sale. Fill up a box for $50, and they had comics from probably last 10 years or so. But last 10 years, guess what you do? You miss a lot of things. And my thing is Spider-Man and making sure I have all the Avengers and Justice League. And that's what I got. I filled up on Justice League, a lot of Avengers that I did not have, and a lot of some of the independent comics that were hot at the time. Because a lot of independent comics don't hold their value very well, unless you Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Something Is Killing Children, or a couple other titles. They just don't. So I filled up my box and went through them and plugged a lot of holes in my own collection. Because as much as I like the Justice League, they don't have a current Justice League book out right now. They kind of discontinued Justice League books with this Final Crisis thing. And I guess they made the Teen Titans like the new primary team for Earth Zero or whatever they have you. But it's good to be back issue. Also, shout out to Time Warp Comics. It helped me finish my Legion of Superheroes run and a couple other runs that I've been working on. Always check your back issues, especially the bins. You can get good deals, fill a lot of holes, especially if you're like me, a lifelong collector. You can't collect every book. You just can't. So those back issues help you fill in the holes that hey, I can't pick up my box. Hey, I lost my job. Hey, this and that is going on. And I can't, spend this $25. This has got to go in my gas tank. I understand that. And I've been there. So go to your back issues. You could probably find a lot of good books that you've never heard of or that you're not familiar with. And that could be a new source of reading material, especially if you like to read like I do. FOMO or Bust. It's a few books that come out over the last couple of months that have really garnered a lot of interest on the secondary market. And the two books I'm going to mention, Ultimate Spider-Man and Ultimate Black Panther. They've been going crazy on the secondary market. If you're LCS, when I say LCS, that's local comic shop. If they still have copies, you might want to grab them. Right now, I think Ultimate Spider-Man is on the 3rd printing and getting ready to go into a 4th printing, which is a little crazy. And Ultimate Black Panther is on a 2nd printing, maybe getting ready to go to a 3rd printing too. I got the first printings. I got 4 different versions of Ultimate Spider-Man 1, 4 different covers. I think they had several different covers. I just happened to get 4 of them because I like the characters. I like Peter Parker a lot, and then this just seemed like this book is a lot better than Amazing Spider-Man 2. Just way better. Better story, better art, and it's very focused on Peter and his life, not just him suffering. He has a family. He has 2 kids. Uncle Ben is still alive. It's really well done. And so if you haven't got it, go get it. Ultimate Black Panther is a lot different. The story's a little bit slower. He's married now. Yeah. And it's basically focused on Wakanda. Him being the king of Wakanda. A little bit slower. Art is really good. And it's interesting that they chose to come out with this book because the main Black Panther series, the 616 Black Panther series, that's out right now, that's been written by Dr. Eve Ewing, is coming to an end on issue 10. So it's interesting that it came out, around the same time that this other title is ending. But like I said, it's going crazy on the secondary market. Ultimate Spider-Man 1 now, the last sold I saw on eBay just a couple days ago was over $100 raw. $100. Book just came out last month. $100 raw. Ultimate Black Panther is a little bit lower than that. Like, I think the last sold I saw for that was like $30-$40. And they're all over the place if you look at the price points. But like I said, just a reminder, these books just came out. And I'm talking about, and the Ultimate Spider-Man book is showing no signs of slowing down either. Ultimate Black Panther was a little different because they had, apparently they had lost or damaged a great deal of them. So it's a little bit scarcer, which is kind of weird to say for Marvel. But, if Penguin comes out and says, hey, we damaged, thousands of these books, and, Penguin is saying it, and Penguin is their distributor, that's a little crazy. So, you got a lot of people who got damaged books, and then you got some people who didn't get any books. So if you're going to speculate or do FOMO, those are the 2 books to do it for. We mentioned Transformers a little bit earlier. This year marks the 40th anniversary of the Transformers. Like I pointed out, I was 8 years old when it came out. I think I was 7 when it first came out. But it really changed the way I looked at cartoons and comic books. And it was one of the first comic books I ever read, thanks to my grandpa, rest in peace, for buying that 3-pack. And it set me, my brother and I, on our journey, our lifelong journey of collecting Transformers, comic books, and other collectibles. It gave me a lot of direction in, my life. Because I wanted to read. I wanted to, see the places I saw in these comic books. Because a lot of times comic books introduce you to a lot of different things, especially places you've never been. And I think the first time I ever saw, mentioned, besides TV, was in comic books, with like different foreign places, especially countries. And I think that yearning to see different places helped me join the Navy and serve for almost 21 years. It's interesting to see it. Really, really enjoy the Transformers. And shout out to Hasbro for sticking with them. They've had successful movie franchises, cartoons, toys. It shows no signs of slowing down. It's got a whole new generation of people who really enjoy the collectibles. State of the hobby. It's wild. It's wild right now. You would think it's everybody keeps saying it's a buyer's market. Sellers are just dumping all their spec books and stuff like that. But, a lot of people still are buying, myself included. Multiple collections been going on routinely on Marketplace. Most in the range you think they are, and some have like a lot of hot pie in the sky numbers. I mean, some of these people, they don't really know how to evaluate or evaluate their comic books, especially when they're pricing. You think because you got a book that's 30 years old, I can ask for $100 for this. That might be a $1 book, might be a 50-cent book, depending on the condition. Might not be worth anything. It might be Brigade number 1. Might be Youngblood number 16. You know, but a lot of people are finding collections or inheriting collections, and they think, I got some old comic books, I can get paid. Take them to someone who knows something. See if you can really, maximize your profit. Maybe you need to send something off to get graded to really maximize your profit. It's a big difference between a raw book and, say, a raw Ghost Rider number 1 and a graded Ghost Rider number 1 9.8. Those are $1,000 swings. Thousands of dollars. So, if you see something, if you inherit something or something's passed down to you, be cautious. Look it up. eBay Sold is your best friend. It can tell you a lot about the value of the items you have. eBay Sold. Just filter it. It takes about 5 minutes, and you can get a clear estimate or clear estimation about what your books are worth, or what you should be charging for them. And should you sell them on Facebook versus eBay? A lot of people, they come to me and say, hey, I'd rather sell this on Marketplace because Marketplace, I don't have to pay taxes. It sounds smart to me, as long as you're doing cash. Most comic book collectors deal with cash. They don't like Cash App. They don't like Zelle. They don't like PayPal goods and services. They want cash money because there's no paper trail, and they don't have to pay taxes on that money, which is a smart thing. I'm not saying it's to, beat the IRS. I'm not saying that. But as far as a seller is concerned, get your money. Get that money. Lastly, I want, TV shows. There's a lot of TV shows based off comic book franchises, books, and even video games. So I watched 2 movies and a TV show recently. I just want to go over what I saw on them. One of the movies I watched was Last Voyage of the Demeter. Corey Hawkins, I think, starred in it. I saw it on Paramount Plus. I thought it was a really good movie. I don't understand the hate it got. I should have saw it at the movie theater, but it's one of the movies I missed. There's a bunch of movies out at the same time that I want to see. First, and by the time I got ready to watch Last Voyage of the Demeter at the movie theater, they had pulled it from the theater that's near us. But once it came on Paramount Plus, the same day the first day it was on, I watched it twice. I was like, this is really well done. It's good. It's a good interpretation of the Dracula myth, the story itself, and it's based on a very short part of the story of Dracula. But it's really well done. Corey Hawkins played a really good, doctor, deckhand in the movie. Really gruesome. It was gruesome. I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, but it's gruesome. Don't get attached to a lot of these characters. It's some of it is kind of hard to watch, but it's told from his perspective. But it seemed like it has potential. Well, I don't think there's going to be a part 2 because of how it was a box office bust, looking at the budget versus what it brought in. But I think it could be a good TV show, to be honest with you. But I really like Last Voyage of the Demeter. I'd give it 3.5 out of 5 stars if I had to rate it. The other movie I saw on Disney Plus was The Marvels. This movie was not as good as the original Captain Marvel movie, but it was good. It was easily watchable, very friendly, family friendly if you had kids or anything like that to watch it. Part of it kind of was weird because it kind of devolved into a musical for a brief second, and it came back out. And some of the fight sequences were kind of weird too because they would switch powers periodically throughout the movie, which kind of threw me off a little bit. But it was pretty decent. I don't think the villain, even though she was a good actress, the new accuser character with the universal weapon, I think they should have went a little bit more into her backstory, or even just set her up kind of like the Thanos treatment. Show how dangerous she could be, because she was dangerous. She was dangerous, but you at no point in that movie did you feel like you were afraid for the heroes, the protagonists. You did not feel that they were in any danger at all throughout any of the movie. And you should have felt like that. Like when you saw Ronan in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, Ronan was dangerous. He was dangerous, he was unhinged, and he could not be reasoned with. If you have villains like that, like him, Thanos, you can't reason with them. And they don't want anything from you other than see, your last breath. And that's what made Ronan such a good character. This new accuser had his universal weapon. She had just about all the powers he had and was dangerous. But she did not, exude danger. It's just hard to explain. Maybe I think, like I say, if you watch it, you'll see what I'm talking about. But I don't understand the hate for the movie. It was, like I say, it was a decent movie. It's easily, I give it 2.5 out of 5. I'd watch it again if I had nothing else to do. And it's a Friday night. All right, the last thing I want to say is the TV show I watched was Halo Season 2. My wife and I, we watched it. We've been binge watching it. And it's a pretty decent show. I really enjoyed it. It's got a lot of different characters in it, a lot of different moving parts. You don't have to watch Season 1 to really get a cue about Season 2. But Season 1 is a lot of world building, kind of a lot of introductions to the Spartans, to Master Chief, and the whole lore behind why the universe is how it is, and with the Covenant. But Season 2 is, straight combat. A lot of action, a lot of sacrifices got to be made, and it's really well done. I watched it and I was kind of like, man, I'm glad they didn't cancel this, as they were talking about. It was really well done. Very, very action oriented series, and something you kind of have to pay attention to. Doesn't have a lot of esoteric, not a lot of nuance. Very straightforward. But I'd give that 4 out of 5. I'd watch that again. I can't wait to see how it ends. So what are you guys reading? What makes you tick in the hobby? Are you going to any cons? Drop us a note at SeanDGraham13@gmail.com or SeanDGraham@yahoo.com. We'd like to hear what you got to say. Till next time, see you down the road.